Welcome to another episode of the Lone Wolfer Moto Vlog. I'm your host, Lone Wolfer. Today we are taking a little ride home from work, cruising on Route 80. When I'm not in a rush to get home, this is my go-to alternate route instead of taking the highway. I have this weird thing about me. I don't actually like to take the same way to somewhere and then home. Really don't like driving on the same road in the same day. Weird little quirk of mine. My girlfriend loves to point that out. And she's like, you know about 85 different ways to get home. And I'm like, more than that. It gives me the opportunity to learn new roads, have alternate routes, get around traffic, and just see some things I haven't seen before. That brings me to the point of why I am doing a moto vlog right now. I actually want to talk about the time that I was in a place that was completely different than here. Las Vegas. Yeah, a few years ago, I actually lived in Las Vegas. Called it home for about 2.5 years, almost closer to 3. And that is where I gained my love for all things motorcycles. And in particular, this motorcycle right here. I actually picked Michelle up in Las Vegas at Las Vegas Harley Davidson after a very interesting day. I had been courting the idea of buying a motorcycle as I was living in a place where a car was not completely necessary. The weather mostly permitted being on a bike all year round. There were some pretty cold days and some pretty hot days, and air conditioning is very nice and heat is very nice, but I was hell-bent on getting a motorcycle, and I was toying with the idea of a Ducati, particularly the Monster. I'm a bigger guy. It's a bit of a smaller bike, but I love it. They're awesome bikes. Same thing with Triumph Bonneville, a little bit smaller bike, but love it. Ultimately, I ended up choosing Harley Davidson Nightster. Also a bit of a smaller bike. I fit pretty well on it. It fit my budget, and it was the first, going to be my first bike, so I figured go with something that I could handle a little bit more, and if I wanted to, I could always move up to a Dyna. I probably won't ever move up to a Dyna. I will probably move past a Dyna, specifically to a Road King of some sort, as I have now fallen in love with the new Road King special that they just introduced this year. Oh my god, that bike is amazing. Specifically for this bike, I fell in love with it when I saw it. I saw this bike and I was like, that's what I want. I hadn't really ridden anything other than dirt bikes, and I needed to not only brush up, but really gain a couple skills, like, just getting into first gear. So my buddy who had prompted my move to Vegas, and, specifically he had said, hey, come live in the desert with me, and we'll get Harleys, and yeah, it'll be awesome. So I did that. Well, the first part at least. And the second part, I was trying to get on the road, and he was like, yeah, fuck you, I'm not letting you ride my bike. He has a Dyna Street Bob, and he did not want me to drop it and or hurt it in any manner. But he was like, my cousin has a Yamaha R1 that has already been dropped. So he was like, yeah, my cousin said it's totally cool if you take this bike out, it's already been dropped, so who fucking cares? And I was like, fucking sweet. So his cousin was about a mile away in Henderson from where we were, and it was fucking hot out. It was end of September. It was 95 degrees outside, and he was like, all right, you're gonna have to wear a leather jacket and a helmet, but you've got to carry him, and we're gonna walk over to his house. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. And then he was like, no, you gotta wear them while we walk. And I was like, you're an asshole. But it was funny, so I decided to put it on. But as we're walking, he's like, hey, I want an ice cream cone. And this was around the time when I was starting to develop lactose intolerance and wasn't quite really aware of what my problem was. And I was like, yeah, an ice cream sandwich would be great, let's do that. So we got ice cream sandwiches, and then we're walking, and then I was running because I had to poop really bad because of the ice cream sandwich. And so I get there, I'm just sweating, and I go use the bathroom, come out, and the bike's sitting there. It's a Yamaha R1. They're pretty nice bikes, and they're pretty powerful bikes. I wasn't quite aware of exactly how powerful those Yamaha R1s R until I sat on it and then tried to get it to go into first, which I stalled it like 3 times, but then got it into first, and then he was like, all right, now you got to get into second. And I was like, all right, cool. So he's like kind of trotting along next to me, my buddy, and he's like, how you feeling? I'm like, well, I feel pretty good. And I was like, I'll see you later. And he's like, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm gonna go fucking blow up to the gears. I think I got this. So let's just say I got up to about let's say about 120 going through the back roads in Henderson on that thing after only like 10 minutes of riding on it. I come back, turn the bike off, and I go, all right, I'm going to Harley right now. And he's like, oh, really? You're going to go do it? And I'm like, yep, but the only way for me to get there was to either take the bus or ride my bicycle. And the bus system in Las Vegas is pretty much the worst. It is pretty much the most terrible thing ever. So I ride my bike over Harley Davidson, and my buddy with the street bob, he was like, all right, I'll meet you over there, and then we'll ride together on the way back. And I was like, all right, sounds like a plan. I get there, I go in, I'm like, hey, you know, to the fucking salesman that I had been talking to, and he's like, oh, hey, what's going on? You ready to pull the trigger? And I think I am. Let's go over some stuff. So we go over a couple things, we talk about it. I talk about, you know, I get all my information on what my financing would be, the payments a month, and he's like, all right, you ready to sign? And I'm like, all right, I need to go outside and just like think for a moment. And he's like, understood. The Las Vegas Harley Davidson used to be in a pretty sketchy neighborhood back then. They have since moved to the south part of the Las Vegas Strip. So they're in a much nicer area. I go out, and where my bike had been chained up was only the front tire, because I made the fucking rookie mistake of thinking that it was going to be safe there and quickly locked it with just the front tire. And I looked at the bike rack and my tire, and I go, fuck. I walked inside and I go, I'm ready to sign. And he goes, sweet, let's do this. So I sign it. He goes to me, do you have your license? And I go, yes. And he goes, I need to see it. And I'm like, all right, you got me. No, I don't. And he goes, well, technically I can't give you the bike on our property because you don't have your license. But if you just walk about 10 feet over there, pointing out the window, I'll bring it over to the curb, and that's not our property anymore, so it's not my fucking problem. And I was like, awesome. So we go out there, and I'm standing there, and he brings the bike over, and he you know, goes over a couple of things like, you know, make sure the kickstand is down, make sure it's locked. People, you know, drop their bikes all the time. And I'm like, got it. And he's like, all right, here's the kill switch. And then he goes, here's the kill switch again. He goes, make sure you understand, here's the horn, all this stuff, all these little things he go over when they gave you the bike. And I go, all right, cool, I got it. And I'm all amped up to get on the bike and go ride. But my buddy, he's nowhere to be found. So I'm standing there and just wait, and he goes, you're going to take off? I'm like, well, I'm waiting for a buddy of mine. He was going to ride home with me. And he goes, all right, understood. And I'm like, thanks for your help, man. And I sit there for a good 45 minutes before my buddy finally, you know, rides up. And he goes, you won't fucking believe it, I got pulled over by a cop. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome, because you don't have a license, do you? He goes, nope. I told the cop that. But then I told him that I was going to meet my buddy who was buying his first bike, and he didn't want to ride alone, so he let me go with a warning. And I'm like, wow, you're lucky you're my friend. And he goes, yep, let's go. We take off. You know, we're going along pretty well, and he's like, all right, just follow me, and, you know, pretty much shift when I shift. The shifting pattern on everybody can be a little bit different, but for the most part, it'll be roughly the same, just until you get comfortable and you can hear and feel the bike. You know, 5 minutes in, I pretty much had shifting down and where all the gears were. And I do have to admit, I did stall out once. I came to a hill, and I let the clutch out a little bit too much. And yeah, I stalled it, but knew where the kill switch was and the starter button, so I got it all fucking started up real quick, and ended up roasting the back tire. Because, well, I let the clutch out a little slower and gave it a lot more gas, and then just let go. And yeah, did a little bit of burnout, and it was pretty fucking nice. And that is how I came to own this here Harley Sportster. Michelle, my fucking favorite thing on the planet. We now have, let's see, I wonder if I can actually see that in the video, 63,307 miles together. It's been a trip, man. Buying this bike was one of the best things I ever did. It totally got me out of funk in life. It gave me a new hobby that I wouldn't say gave me a purpose, but made me feel alive again. And I highly recommend, if anyone is on the fence or has a friend that's on the fence, just give them that extra kick, or just take the plunge yourself and go take a course. Just get into it. If you don't like it, you're gonna know pretty much right away if it's not for you. However, I bet dollars to fucking donuts that you're gonna put your ass on that fucking saddle and you're just gonna be like, this is everything I've been missing in my life. Not that your life is probably, you know, fucking in the shambles that mine was, will be something that you will be grateful for. 99% of you will jump on and be like, this is everything I need right now. This is everything. That's how I got the bike. Thanks for listening along to this little story about how I met Michelle. And if you actually do like what you hear, give me a like. I've been pretty consistent every week dropping a new one, and I hope to keep that up the rest of the summer. Got a lot of fun trips planned. Hope you guys stick around. I'm out.